Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I know you've done a lot of work with educational leaders and with educators. Can you talk to us about how you've thought about your own ethnographic work and making it relevant for educators and for leaders in particular?
Yeah, so I think that, so here we're getting into, this whole area of, what constitutes science and scientific inquiry, and scientific evidence, upon which policies and practices can be based. And I think that that's a very important issue, and I think it's an issue that, all ethnographers really ought to grapple with and contend with. And I think that there are a couple of areas that we really need to be clear about. I think we still need to be, and I think you have a question more about the future in a bit, but I might go ahead and talk a little bit about that. I think we need to be very clear about the value of this kind of inquiry. And part of that starts with being very clear about the role of culture in educational processes, the role of culture in everyday life, and meaning construction, right? And so, Fred Erickson years ago at a conference, and he's been here, I know. Many people, I think, including education leaders, on some levels they're probably aware of this, but we need to constantly stress that people construct meanings, and these meanings are causal. They're causal in everyday life. They really do have a force to them, as James Peacock would say. And that is our realm, to try to capture that as ethnographers, and working in educational settings and schools to try to capture what that means for educational practices. So that's foundational to our work. I do think that in working with education leaders and teachers, practitioners, we need to be clear about the value of this kind of work. I think we need to be clearer about transferability, the role of concepts, the role of theory, the generalizability. So that all has to do with utility, right? And so I think we need to be more clear about that. And so our studies, we're trying to capture meaning making and everyday practices on the ground, but there are also implications for what we learn for other similar settings. And it's that leap to transferability that I think we need to be more clear about. And we also need to be more clear about what our findings mean for practice. And we need to work on translating findings. And you and I have talked about this in terms of translating findings in ways that are readily accessible, understandable, and useful for school leaders and policymakers. And that's work that I think is very, very important for qualitative researchers to engage with.